I know the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
American. Just 1 second. All right.
Within 4 years, the Citizens Council was powerful enough that in the election of 1959, it threw its support openly and actively behind the candidacy of a damage suit lawyer named Ross Barnett, not one of the world's most successful politicians up to then, and saw him elected over a supposed moderate who was himself a segregationist, but with a quieter voice than Ross Barnett. And from 1959 until 1963, in the Barnett administration, the Citizens Council was the state, and the state effectively on matters racial was the Citizens Council.
And the Sovereignty Commission was what? How would you define it?
The Sovereignty Commission was the official arm, as far as I'm concerned, of the Citizens Council's philosophy. The fact that it was occasionally run by people who were not fond of the Citizens Council leadership does not nonetheless change that fact. The Sovereignty Commission, in most of its functions, was a police state apparatus.
Okay, good.
One of the most disturbing things to me is how the people who've been writing about the movement during the 60s could come up with a nonviolent police chief in Albany, Georgia, when in fact he was the most violent and conniving.
I want to stop you and I want you to tell me who was, because nobody hears my voice. Okay. Go right ahead.
One of the most disturbing points that I have observed in people who either write or talk about the movement in 1960 in Albany has to do with the Chief Pritchett, the then police chief. They say that he was nonviolent. How could a man be nonviolent who observed people being beaten with billy clubs? One young lady was dragged up the steps of the courthouse after being arrested by her hair. Another man, Reverend Samuel Wells, was dragged into the courtroom by his gonads. One person was hung in the jailhouse by his thumbs, all under direction and authorization and officiating of this nonviolent police chief, Laurie Pritchett. I just don't understand how they could come up with this, but it has been the case. People who were taken out to the counties because they couldn't hold us, the jail couldn't hold us.
Just ran out.
Speed. Okay.
I remember a statement that Chief Pritchett made to me one time when he says, you know, Sherrod, it's just a matter of mind over matter. I don't mind, and you don't matter. And that statement was certainly true of people that he sent to Terrell County and Baker County, because I witnessed myself the deputy sheriff slapped me almost unconscious just because I said yes and no. Those were the early days when I didn't know that you just didn't say yes or no to these white folks. You had to say yes, sir, no, sir. And the same things were done 1,000 times all over the country took the heat off us in the winter. In the summertime, they cut the heat on and wouldn't give us any blankets or mattresses, and they stuffed 40 people in cells. This happened all over Southwest Georgia, in all the counties where, in fact, one lady, as I said, lost her child. I think that was about the worst incident that we felt.
Mark?
So you will
Yeah,
begin why you and
yeah.
Dora are even going.
John Doerr and I left Birmingham immediately behind the bus. The Freedom Riders had insisted that they weren't going to ride this bus unless it was a local. They wanted to stop at every station. They wanted to test the bathroom facilities, the dining facilities, at every little out-of-the-way bus stop. Well, the driver was scared out of his wits. He knew what had happened at Anniston the week before, and he drove an express bus. Dora and I went ahead of that bus, made a couple of stops for gas, I guess, maybe for a cup of coffee. We arrived at the Federal Building, which adjoins the bus station, about 2 or 3 minutes after the bus arrived. As John got out of the car, you could hear the shouts from across the way, the screams. I looked across the way, and baggage was being hurled into the air above the bus station shed. Dora ran for the Federal Building, and I drove up the street and quickly through an alleyway on the back side of the bus station. And as I came down the far side, I saw this almost anthill of activity. The Freedom Riders emerging for the bus were attacked, were being mauled. It looked like 200-300 people just all over them. There were screams, shouts. As I drove along, I saw 2 young women who were Freedom Riders being pummeled to one side. There was a woman who was walking along behind one of these young women. She had a purse on a strap, and she was beating her over the head. And a young, skinny, blonde teenager in a T-shirt was sort of dancing her backward in front of her, punching her in the face. Instinctively, I just bumped up onto the sidewalk, blew the horn, jumped out of the car, came around, grabbed the one who was being hit, took her back to the car. The other young woman got in the back seat of the car, and I opened the door, pushed this young woman, whose name I think was Susan Wilbur, and said, "Get in the car." And she said, "Mister, this is not your fight. I'm nonviolent. Don't get hurt because of me." I almost got away with it. If she'd gotten into the car, I think I could have gotten away. But that moment of hesitation gave the mob a chance to collect their wits. And one grabbed me by the arm, wheeled me around, and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Get back, I'm a federal man," turned back to her, and the lights went out. I was hit with a pipe over this ear. And literally don't remember anything that happened. They kicked me up under the car. I woke up half hour later. I was wearing John Doerr's shirt. I'd been on the road for a long time, and I'd borrowed a shirt from him. I remember waking up and looking, the shirt was drenched with blood, and my first thought was, poor John, I've ruined his shirt.
Flags? And Mark? It's all yours.
When at Cheney's funeral, you had prepared a statement. You got up on the stand to deliver your statement, and you couldn't deliver the statement. And you ended with, you began to say, "Damn their souls." Can you talk about that statement? Talk about that moment and where you went at that time?
Well, after the bodies were found, that was this. After the bodies of Swerner, Goodman, and Cheney were found, there was a basic concern about cooling things down because the country was angry. I had been told I was going to give the eulogy at the church in Meridian, James Chaney. And I had been approached by the people of my national office of Corps and others to make sure that the speech that's given is calm. They don't want a lot of, things stirred up and everything else like that. And I'd agreed to do that. And I said, okay, fine, it's good. But then when I got up there and I looked out there and I saw little Ben Chaney, things just sort of snapped. And I was in a fantasy world to be sitting up here talking about things going to get better and we should do it in an easy manner and remember nonviolence and stuff like that. It's because this country, you cannot make a man change by speaking a foreign language. You just understand what you're talking about. This country operated then and still operates on violence. I mean, if you said eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, that's what we respect. And if that's why football is so popular. That's why wrestling matches, boxing, everything in this country is so popular. It's an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And I couldn't see if I was speaking to anyone that's going to make any changes unless I told the way I felt. So I just stopped and I said what I felt. And that's what brought it about. I mean, there was no need of standing in front of that kid, Ben Chaney, and lie to him.